better never ends. In health, in performance, no matter your starting point, you can always strive for better. My name's Charlie Goodchild, I'm your host, and this is the Better Never Ends podcast. We've made it our mission to share with you the expertise and wisdom of role models and leading experts in their field, teaching us about how we can be better, telling stories about their journey to better, and inspiring you to discover yours. Welcoming our listeners to slightly rebranded podcast today. We have just very slightly tweaked the name of our podcast from Better Never Ends podcast to Better Health Podcast. This is probably more to do with SEO logistics and just trying to help people find what we're about, which is health. And our ultimate mission and mindset of Better Never Ends is still very much what we're about. But yeah, you might start seeing a few different phrasings. Better Health Podcast is going to be the one. And look, I wanted to start this podcast actually by trying to reach out to some of those more distant listeners, because I've been looking at our stats recently and noticing that it's not just people from London, it's not just people from the UK that are listening to our podcast, which is actually quite a nice thing to think about, because I must admit, when I first started this thing in my bedroom, I didn't think it would be anything more than a few mates listening. So that's cool. So I've been having a look. We've got listeners from India, from Sweden, from Czech Republic, from Denmark, from United States, Australia, New Zealand. We've got guests listening from all over the world, and no doubt there's people who probably are hearing this thinking, well, I'm from this country and you haven't mentioned me. So can you please reach out to us either on Instagram, on our Better Never Ends profile, or on our new Reddit site, which is Better Health Podcast. So I'm not really a Reddit user, but I've been told it's a good place to get people talking about health stuff. So if you are one of those people, please do send us a comment, a message of some sort. Let's get the conversation rolling on Reddit and Instagram. We are joined today by someone who I initially misjudged. Okay, so we have someone in front of me who I'm very interested by, and very pleased to welcome into the conversation. Pete Taylor is here. So Pete Taylor is a reformed, awakened man. Okay, and hopefully we'll get deeper on that. Well, we will get deeper on that. And when I first was doing some research on bringing in some new guests, we're trying to be bolder, bringing guests from further afield than just the space that we work and people we know. I found this very masculine, very male-centered conversation. And I initially thought, hang on a minute, aren't we as a world trying to become more equal, trying to help women, trying to help the marginalized societies have more of a voice? And then I looked a bit deeper into the posts and I got it. I got it. So before I spoil it and give away all the punchlines, I want to introduce Pete, and I hope he can give a bit more detail into what he's about, his journey for sure, because I think that's important. But let's go straight for the punchline. Why do men need a safe space to talk? What is it about what you're doing that is special, and what is it that you're so passionate about these days?
Okay, team. Firstly, I am super interested. When you first landed on the Awakened Man Instagram page,
yeah,
what was the initial judgment that came up from you?
So I saw guys looking very slick, muscles, cars, fast cars, and I'm literally cherry picking moments. But what I missed was the psychological depth on my first glance. Okay, and ultimately, some guys will look at that and be attracted in a positive way. I know I'm quite a liberal guy, and I know that I think differently to some other guys, and that probably was it. But I bet there are some people that look at it and go, that's cool, and then they get the psychological depth. Whereas I probably got the, what's that about? What's that being shouted about for? Why is he talking about men so in a really masculine way? And then I got the psychological depth.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the fast cars, the slickness, the physically looking good, the bodies was an initial like, actually I don't like that.
Yeah.
Interesting, and I find it can trigger guys.
Yeah.
But when the trigger comes up, it's like, why is the trigger coming up?
Yeah.
Like what's behind that trigger? What's the avoidance with it? Is it like, oh, fuck you, fuck this Pete guy driving in his nice car and he's got a nice body, like, but because why not?
Yeah.
Why not have all those things? Why not have a standard where, if you like, because I just like nice cars.
Yeah.
I just like it. I've always wanted a Porsche, drive a Porsche. I just like it. But why not have a life where you can have all these hedonistic, the materialistic, you can have those things, but you can also have the depth of knowing who you are and knowing where you're going, and you're doing it around great people, and you've got great interpersonal relationships. It's like the well-rounded man, having high standards in every facet.
Yeah. Well, I caught myself, which is kind of why I started with it. I caught myself being judgmental in the wrong way, and I bet you're right. I bet that is coming through some barrier inside of me, some superficial, unhelpful thing inside of me. But I caught myself, and I'm glad I did, because now you're here and you're going to tell your story.
Yeah.
So you've given a pretty good headline there, actually, of why not. Essentially, that's the headline. But why you? Let's go there. Why you?
Why me?
Yeah. Why did you start this thing? What happened in your life that meant that you were the one to become the founder, co-founder of this venture that you've got now?
Okay. Yeah. Let's do we'll do a 2-minute micro story of where I was 8 years ago. Yeah, 9 years ago. This is where I was 8-9 years ago. So I was very much in the corporate world, and I was climbing the corporate ladder, doing super well. So I was late 20s, not early 30s, late 20s in the corporate world, climbing the corporate ladder. I was doing architecture, right? So I was 28, 29 years old, doing architecture for super high-end buildings in London. And there was a time where we were merging 2 buildings together in Moorgate, right? And we're doing all the interior design there, we're doing all the fit out. And I was lead designer managing the project. I had probably 150 guys on site. It was an 18-month project. I was getting up at 5 in the morning, traveling into London. So I didn't used to live in London at the time, so I was commuting loads and loads of hours. And there was a period there where I was like, do you know, I could probably do this myself. I could probably actually have my own sort of business rather than me working for someone else. Maybe I could do this myself. And that seed was planted then. Fast forward 18 months, the project finished, and my director at the time drove in to the office in his brand new Porsche, white Porsche. It was fucking gorgeous. And then at the same time, I got a little bit stumped on, I got shafted essentially on the amount of commission I was getting from me running that project. I'm like, fuck you. My director's just driven in his brand new Porsche. There was like moments of like admiration for that, but there was also like a real big fuck you. And why can't I have that? And then that was the catalyst then for me. What is what I call a route B. It's like the traditional route of route A is just sticking with what my boss wanted me to do. The safer route of what my mum wanted me to take. My girlfriend at the time, no, don't fucking quit your job.
Safety.
Don't quit your safe, secure corporate job that you're doing super well in to go and just work out in my living room and start a business. But I had this fuel inside of me to go and take route B. So I did. I took the illogical route. The logical route, stick with what I'm doing. The illogical was go, fuck this. Let's take route B. Started my business from my living room. And over the course of 6 years, grew that from living room into an office in Ascot High Street. We owned the building. We had tenants in the building. I had a team of 20 people. We had winning all the awards. I bought the big house in Oxford. Had loads of land. Had the nice car. Had the nice watches. I didn't have the Porsche just yet, but it was absolutely on the horizon. But during that period of me building this business, which was an architecture business, so we would do interior design, we would do architecture, we'd do project management. Essentially, we would build people's dream homes and we build their dream lives. Ironically, I had not built my dream life. I was climbing this mountain thinking it was the dream life, going after the hedonistic, going after the cars, the watches, the money. And I got that, and I got to a stage where I was incredibly fucking isolated. So, picture this. I'm in the beautiful countryside in Oxfordshire. I have quite a bit of land situated. I had a deer living in the garden.
Yeah.
I'm with a beautiful woman. We have a son on the way. I have a dog. I've got all the things, and the dog he's a staffy. He's the dog I always wanted. I've got all these things I ever wanted. And I was walking through the woods. So we were stones throw away from like beautiful countryside. There's like literally thousands of acres of woodland, and there's never anyone in there. So I've walked this walk hundreds of times with my dog. And this one time I was walking it, and I was like, I fucking don't know where I am. Like, I knew the route, but internally I felt so lost. This was like September 2 years ago, 2.5, 2 years ago, September, right? Felt incredibly fucking lost. And it was this like huge realization that I have all these things that I ever wanted, yet I feel incredibly lonely right now. And I didn't have people to turn to. I'd actually isolated myself. I drifted well away from my friends. I'd actually outgrown a lot of my school friends. And the conversations that I was having with them were very much surface level. I couldn't really confide in them. I had a team of 20 people, so I had lots of people around me, but could I really tell my team what was going on internally? Right? And I had this like thing with my partner at the time that I would confide in her, but I never really went truly where I was. And actually me confiding in her truly and telling her exactly how I was really feeling was a put off for her. It wasn't really what she wanted to hear from her man, the guy that's here to provide and protect, give her the security. As much as she was there supportive of me, super supportive, it wasn't what she wanted to hear. And so I was just going down and down into this pit, which I now call, and other people call it, it's like the dark night of the soul. I met my fucking soul. I looked at the trees at the back of my garden and thought, hanging off those looks like a fucking good idea, even though I had all these amazing things going on. And it was literally the moment I was like, okay, something's got to fucking change. And I have to find a different route. This route of going after all these amazing things and going after the car and so on and just building that isn't the right way. I need to find a new mountain.
So we've got this very superficially beautiful looking life, right? You've got all the things that you ever wanted, and clearly there was a big thing that was missing. All right, so we'll come to what that became shortly. But what I want to ask at this stage, what is it do you think about society and the way we live through childhood, through exposure to role models, through exposure to materialistic things? What is it about that celebrates that life that you were living that was actually quite empty, that loneliness?
Most guys, like most guys, their like core value, or one of the real core values would be status. So it's some form of status. Status gives us power. Guys that have power, we feel fucking good with power. We feel great when we have status. Pete drives a nice car, he's got status. Pete has a big business, he's got status. Pete looks good, he's got status. Status attracts people. Status attracts women.
Yeah.
Status attracts other guys, right? For typically for women, it's security. Like one of their biggest values is security. So it's to feel secure. A man with status
helps them feel secure.
Typically can help a woman feel secure. Mm. So a man with status can then attract mates. Mm. So it's like it's within us, and that it's not a bad thing, but it's when we go after the wrong type of status, the hedonistic status, the status of the fast cars and the fast women and so on. And those things are great. Like, I fucking loved living my 20s and my early 30s. Like, I had a great time. I don't regret any of that. I advise guys, fucking allow yourself to want. Mm-hmm. Like when you scrolled the Instagram at the start, I'm like, I don't like that. But I'm like, dude, allow yourself to want those things. Like, you can have it all. You can have that, and you can have all the psychological like health as well. Yeah. Right. So I think it's great to have those things, but it's where we can really fuck up and get lost, which is what I was very, very lost, is when we don't have mentors, guides, elders, strong role models that are also guiding us and go, hey, dude, like, get those things, but also work on the depth of your relationships. Also work on finding meaning in your life, not just meaning in buying a car.
This is it. So this is, now we've got there, right? The story was really helpful there to just take us to the moment of your realization. And when I then reflect on my own life, so we found out earlier we're born both in 87, so we're both 37. And I've realized now as my friendship group, which is a pretty strong friendship group, we've been 15 plus of us since school. So we're pretty tight knit when we're together. But what's happened increasingly into our 30s is we're not together as much. We're not on stag do's anywhere near as much. Everyone's either married or happily single. And we're now looking at seeing each other a couple of times a year. And when we do, it's great. But that's 6 months where we don't get together and connect. And actually, you're right. Sometimes when we do connect, you can't go deep because you've got to cover the superficial, and it takes you all day to cover the superficial. So you don't almost have time to go as deep as you might want to. And also what you've just mentioned there is we've all grown in our different directions and become different people since school. So sometimes we're actually a bit too different now to go deep because we don't have those common grounds. We don't have those things to share. So, and we actually jokingly mentioned earlier as we were grabbing a Colombian coffee from around the corner, and that the pub culture is almost part to blame here, is that we've lost that space of the pub because we now see the pub as being this thing bad for our health and that we don't go to as much. They're closing down all over the country. So in the absence of pub culture, we're physically healthier, but we're socially less healthy. So now I'll bring you back in. You recognised it. I can reflect on it and see it in my group. What's the solution?
Here's the thing. This is massively what I've learned over the 3 years, nearly 3 years of running the Awakened Man, and the depth of my relationships have 10x'd. Like like the conversations that we have with guys and I have with guys, I'm like, fucking hell, I was never having this 3 years ago. Never anywhere near it. It will be about football scores and just like, what are you doing on the weekend? That, and it'd be great. You'd have a fucking laugh, and that's good. It's good to have a laugh. And I have a great laugh with my guys, but we go really deep. We talk about levels of consciousness. We talk about the universe. We talk about sex. We talk about like how we can go deeper in our interpersonal relationships, how we can like resolve conflict with the people around us that mean something to us. And I've learned this, that surface level relationships leads a surface level life. When you deep relationships, you lead a fucking deep, meaningful life. You find more meaning. Super, super important. And for me, for a very, very long time, as like you, still have schoolmates that I was with for a long time. And it took me some balls to cut them off, to cut those school friends off. And I was like, hey, I fucking love those guys, but actually, are they serving me? Like, are they supporting my growth? And a lot of them weren't, not in a malicious way. It just wasn't in their paradigm to even think about growing anything outside the box. Whereas my mindset was, I want fucking illogical. The route B's that I've taken throughout my life, I'm like that. They've always led me to amazing places. I want more of the fucking route B's. I want more guys around me that want illogical lives. And does keeping hold of my existing school friends serve that? No. So, well, now I'm going to have to, not just like, hey guys, fuck you, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. It's just slow and steady, just not going to see as much of her anymore, and go and find deeper relationships. But for me to do that, I had to become deeper myself. I had to go there because I had to go there myself. I had to go deep into my shadows and into my darkness. When I had that dark night of the soul, why was that happening? What was going on? What was truly, truly going on there? And deep in, and like fucking delve into that and figure out, is there like the trauma that I had inside of me? Figure out the things I need to fucking heal. And that is incredibly difficult to do that. It's very, well, it's opening. I say it's vulnerability to its highest degree.
What were some of your key learnings from that process?
Fuck, it's so much. I played the nice guy role for most of my life. The nice guy or people pleaser. Hey, if I do this for you, then you'll be nice to me. Mm-hmm. Boundaries, fuck me, I didn't know what boundary was. Boundary for me was a fence, like a wall with my architecture business. That's what a boundary was. Me having no boundaries because I was such a nice guy, I was such a people pleaser, led to the breakdown of that business. My old business, which I essentially quit because I was like, fuck this. It got incredibly toxic. One of the core reasons that it got toxic is because I had no boundaries as a man. I was just fucking pleasing everyone, saying yes to everything, not feeling that I could say no. Because if I say no, then what if they then don't like me? Then if they don't like me, then what if they then leave me? And then if they leave me, then what if I'm lonely?
So was that fear of loneliness? How did you solve that fear of the loneliness?
Okay, so the fear of it's not fear of loneliness. It's fear of abandonment. Okay. So for us as guys, and the same applies to women as well, but some certain areas that we have like huge fears over. One of them is abandonment. One of them is our own self-worth. And the other one is uncertainty. So fear of being abandoned, fear of people leaving me, fear of my own self-worth. Like, am I actually worthy? Like, there could be fears of failure, fears of success. Like, should I even fucking be on in this earth? Should I even be here?
That almost sounds like the ultimate imposter syndrome, right?
Huge. Yeah. But if that's fucking deep rooted in our conscious and our subconscious, and we don't know it's there, it will absolutely drive your life. Our deepest fears drive us. We just don't know they drive us.
So I'm reading this incredible book at the moment, The Myth of Normal, Gabor Mate, and a lot of the words within it and the stories within it, the teaching is about childhood. It's about where that stuff all starts, really. But by the time we get to adulthood, you don't have a conscious memory often of how that stuff started. You just have the wiring that's left, the subconscious wiring that's left. And, far from blaming parents here, it's just the reality of upbringing, certainly in the generation we were, that it wasn't always perfect, right? It's not always going to be perfect.
Yeah, but you say far from blaming parents. Fucking lot of guys do blame their parents or blame their father.
Yeah.
And many times this is unknowingly blaming your father. Yeah. Most men have father wounds. There's a wounding from an absent father or a father that was there that it was even so fucking perfect. The father was too perfect. Now the son has to live up to how perfect the father was. Like, most guys have father wounds. But like, this is interesting actually, on when lots of guys like might blame their father for some, like, I'm emotionally detached. I can't fucking feel my emotions. Or like, my missus wants me to be more emotional and feel the feelings and be more feeling with her. But I just can't do it. But that's because my dad was emotionally detached. So it's his fucking fault. Right? But this is where you can start to have a little bit of compassion for your parents.
For sure.
Is when you think this, me and you are jamming on a podcast right now. We're talking about this stuff. We're bringing awareness to it. Think about your parents. Did they have podcasts? No. Did they have YouTube? No. Yeah. There might have been a couple of books about, but Amazon wasn't big.
They were doing their best at the time.
Did they have fucking therapy?
Yeah.
No. In fact, their parents, where were their parents? In the war, likely. Yeah, or coming out the back end of the war. And then they were raised. Have some real compassion there.
Yeah.
And then here's the next thing: is that once you are aware of something, you've got to fucking take responsibility of it.
Bang on. I was just thinking these words. I was going to raise it. I think this is exactly it. You're not blaming your understanding. You are seeking an additional layer of understanding to help you take responsibility. You now have ability to respond, right? Responsibility to move forward and change your life.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. And this is why the blaming, this is why I was careful about, this isn't about blaming. It's about understanding.
Well, blame's victim. You got two choices of mindset. Is a victim or an owner. Victim, poor me, world's against me, everything happens to me, nothing happens for me. My parents did this, my boss did this, my missus did this, my missus cheated on me, fucking hell, bitch. Yeah, that's fucking awful and it's painful. But staying in that victim mindset doesn't get you anywhere. It actually will just manifest into more like, the more you complain, the better at complaining you get. Right? As soon as you're aware of it and you jump into the other triangle of being an owner, it's like, once you're an owner, you've got choices. You can decide to be the coach and coach yourself out of it. You can decide to be the challenger and challenge your way out of it. Right? Or decide to be the hero. Like, what? How can I be a hero in this moment, even though I've got fucking chaos and challenges all around me? How can I still be a hero rather than falling into victim?
What worked for you?
What worked for me? The decision, literally deciding that no one's going to fucking come in and go, hey Pete, let me rescue you. Hey Pete, here's all the answers. Again, when I'm looking for someone to rescue me, I'm sat being a victim, essentially. Like, oh, Charlie's going to give me the answers. He's going to come and rescue me. Oh, or my mum's going to bail me out, or whatever. Like, I'm sat in victim. As soon as you go over to, fuck me, no one's going to come give me the answers. No one's going to come and save me. No one will really give a shit, like, what happens to me. Do you remember, about 18 months ago, Chandler from Friends died?
Yeah.
Didn't he?
Yeah.
Fucking horrific. And like, Chandler from Friends, like,
big part of our
life. I've watched Friends over and over. Just such easy comedy is amazing. And I remember when he died, Jennifer Anderson did a post on her Instagram, and she played some music on the post, and it was a beautiful music, piano playing. And I remember I Shazammed it and put it on my Spotify. And then literally, this was like last month, I was driving my car, and on auto playlist, this music came on. And I was like, Chandler, fuck me, he died. Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot about Chandler. And then I moved on with my life. But I was thinking about it. I was like, here's a guy who globally, hundreds of millions of people will know who he is, and would have loved him and adored him, right, because of what he gave to the world. Yet he died, and then everyone forgot a day later. His loved ones and so they will still remember that and would have been thinking about that for months and years afterwards. But for the most of us, we all fucking moved on pretty fucking quick.
And is that not just a glimpse of what fame is and isn't?
Yeah. But it's like, how can we take insight of that into our own lives? For me personally, it's like, do you know, no one really gives a fuck about, my mum cares about me, right? And my son, obviously, right?
The further removed, the less they care.
But outside of that, no one really gives a fuck. So it's purely down to me, it's purely down to you to create whatever you want in life.
I've got, so Matthew Perry, that was his name.
Yes.
Matthew Perry. So you mentioning that, I'm pretty sure there were some drug and mental health problems that he had throughout most of his adult life. So we're touching on something actually quite relevant to this whole conversation here, is the mental health of men. We know suicide is the biggest killer of men in our age group, as far as I'm aware. So
yeah, it is highest rate of deaths in our age group is suicide. Suicide of men is 3 times higher than it is women. Even down to not just suicide, but like just abusive behaviors like drug abuse, alcohol abuse. That's 3 times higher in men than it is in women.
So what's going on there? Why does that happen, do you think?
I mean, guys for quite some time have been going for this existential crisis. There's so many layers to this of what the fuck does it mean to be a man in today's world, like right now with the rise of feminism, and guys like being very confused as to what's my fucking place, like who am I, like, what's my role in society? all the way through to, and this is a huge part that I fell into, is I'm fucking lonely and isolated. And I'm lonely and isolated. I have no one to turn to talk about what's going on in my head. So I go and see a therapist. But here's the thing about therapy. Therapy's fucking brilliant. I'm a huge advocate for it. 80% of therapists are women. Right? So in the therapy world, it's just like the construction world. Construction world is mostly male dominated. So the modalities and the way that it's run is very, very masculine. It's very, very male dominated. In the psychotherapy world, it's very female dominated. So a lot of the modalities and the way that it's run is around the feminine. And that's just, it makes complete sense, right? But a lot of talk therapy with guys just doesn't work. It's like, I've been through talk therapy and it absolutely helped in bringing awareness to what's going on. Like, oh, I can link things together now. Okay, maybe that's why I act in that way. I can link things together. But the awareness is only fucking surface level. That's massively, you can be aware of all your fucking problems, but it doesn't change them.
So the choices that then come, the action that then has to come, that almost sounds a bit more like a masculine specific function and something that might be missing from the therapy you were having.
Yeah, so I actually started to move more into there was like I believe that what we do with the Awakened Man, we found like a real amazing cocktail here that works really well for the masculine, is that we have this like outlet to talk about our shit within guys, and we can talk about anything and everything within a group of guys. But also what we do, particularly when I meet guys in person and we do events, is that we do a lot of like embodiment work, like movement. Like what we feel within our bodies, our trauma within our bodies, is essentially it's emotion, it's energy, it's a form of energy, when we keep it there, we keep it in our chest, we keep it in our balls, we keep it down those. We feel so much shame around these areas. It like that keeps us trapped. Once you're aware of what that is, and you can move it out of your body, so like embodiment practices, somatic work, breath work, actually moving it out your body works wonders for guys. It's really, really effective for men.
And this is almost touching on an even deeper concept here of why we keep it in the first place. I mean, this isn't just men, far from it, women do this too, but we are speaking about men specifically here. So what do you think it is about the lives we live and the culture we're in, about why do we have so much of this that is trapped inside of us that we don't then let out naturally?
Because it's like, listen, let's just say that I've got some deep-rooted shit that's going on in my head. I'm having some dark periods, and then I'm vulnerable in sharing that. Vulnerability in today's world is deemed soft, right? Mm-hmm. It's you're deemed as you. Oh, he's fucking being a little bit open here, a little bit wet, a bit of a soft man. A soft man is then, it goes up to, well, let's think about
status.
Yeah, status, absolutely, but also just think about your penis. Yeah. Right, a soft penis isn't good in a sexual arena. Yeah. Men feel loads of shame around having a soft penis in a sexual arena, right? For fucking so much shame around that, because it's not related to being hard back up to status, right? Hard is nothing to do with being vulnerable, okay?
Even just the kind of macho hard man, that's very much a thing that's been popularized for decades now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, that man is a hard man.
Yeah, because like macho, hard, strong, you immediately associate that with protection. And I love that. Like, there's a huge part of that. It's like fucking good. I think a man absolutely should be in a position where he can protect himself physically and he can protect his family physically. Absolutely. I think that should be a standard that every man should hold, alongside in the right environment, he can talk about what's going on.
Right environment.
Yeah, in
what's
the right
that
environment.
Right environment? Or maybe what's the wrong environment?
Oh, do you know? So let's just say you and your missus, right? I experienced this with my ex-missus, and then when I got into this work, I was like, I'm not the fucking only guy who does that, who went through this. If you go, this is in my experience, too feely, opening up all of your feelings with your missus, she does not find that attractive. She won't want to fuck you immediately afterwards, right? That's where, but however, women are great with intuition. They always know when you got shit going on. They always know when there's like something going on with you. They know when you're off.
I could buy into that, yeah.
Yeah. They all their intuition is amazing.
They sometimes know before I know.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the beautiful feminine attribute. It's the most beautiful thing. But it's more like, rather than avoiding that, rather than like she knows something's off with you, and you're like, fuck, she knows, or rather than suppressing that or avoiding it, or going the complete opposite way and dispersing all of your feelings and emotions and having a good cry in front of her, is be like, hey, babe, I have actually got some things going on in my head right now. It's to do with X, Y, and Z. I'm sorting it with the guys. I'm chatting it through with them. I'm getting a little bit of a plan with them. Don't worry, I'm all good. Now she's like, oh, well, he's acknowledged that he's got some shit going on, and he's sorting it with the guys. Okay, feel pretty good about that. That's a much better way to do it. And then this is what I found with groups of guys, is that you can talk your shit with guys, because the masculine is extremely loving. The masculine is love. The masculine gives, right? And for many, many years, I had this the wrong way around. I was like, well, no, I'm going to seek love from women. Right? I love women. I'm going to go and seek love from them. I'm going to go and find, I need love. I'm going to go and find it in women.
That's the way we're taught.
Yes.
Really?
But it's the wrong way around. Right? It's like, if you think about feminine and masculine dynamics, if you were to think of these two words, submissive and dominant, we're going a little bit sexual here, but you can this can be any facet. Submissive, is that masculine or feminine?
Yeah, feminine.
Yeah. Dominant, is it masculine? Yes. Yeah. And this isn't being derogatory or
talking about averages, aren't we?
Yeah. And both can switch. Doesn't like you could be a man, right? And you could be submissive at any moment.
Context as well matters, but we're talking about averages.
But it's all. But this is not to do with a man and a woman. This is to do with feminine and masculine.
Yeah.
You're a man. You could have 90% of the way that you act is feminine. It doesn't make you a female. This is the difference. And loads of people fuck this up. They're like, hang on a minute, you can't say that being submissive is because I'm a female. Well, no, it's feminine. And this is the thing, to be a truly well-rounded man, it's the yin and the yang. You have to embody both. The same with women. Like, women can embody their leadership roles, let's just say for a business, for example, and then there'll be certain areas where they go, oh, I'm going to lean into my masculine now, be a fucking warrior here, and act. So, back to this, right? Dominant, masculine, submissive, feminine, okay? When you're thinking about those dynamics, if a masculine is dominant, is he giving or receiving? Giving. Right? It's a thing about from a sexual point of view. He's giving. It's the same with love. The masculine gives. The masculine gives love.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, we fuck this up. We think, no, well, the woman in the household should just provide all this amazing love in the house. No, the more that you give love as a man, the more love will then flow through the house, and the more love that your woman will flow back to you. And what I have seen in working with loads of guys, when I get like 40, 50 guys in a room together, when they get comfortable with each other, it's fucking so loving. Guys are hugging each other, go, fucking, oh, you just met you 10 minutes ago, but you're a dude, man. You're a proper guy. You're a good guy.
No, this rings true to me as well. This is like my experience when a group of guys are really riffing and really getting together and like connecting. It is very loving.
Yes.
And look, this, I would say, look, love is the universal language anyway, right? If we get it really right, it's reciprocal, whether it's male, female, it's reciprocal, and that's really what we're all seeking. But I think that man-to-man love is taboo, isn't it?
Yes.
It's suddenly seemed as
That's gay.
It's gay. It's homosexual.
Yeah,
It's
fuck that.
I don't do that.
Yeah.
But what is it? How do you then get beyond that? I mean, you've explained it pretty well there. But is there anything else that you help to break down those boundaries about?
I have just seen this over and over and over again. Is that we think that guys are going to fucking judge us. Most men are worried about judgment. They're like, fuck me, if I tell them my deepest shit, they'll judge me. I can't be judged. No fucking, because judgment affects my status. Back to the core values.
Yeah.
Guys don't, especially conscious guys. Guys that have fucking got their shit together, they don't give a fuck. They really don't care. Like guys that are on growth, they're on a growth trajectory. They're after bigger things in life. They don't judge you in the way that you think they're judging you. If there's anything they're going to do, they're going to hold you to a high standard. They're going to call you up, not call you out. Right? Yesterday, I had a group call with 16, 17 of my guys, and one of the guys shares something about his son. And the guy, like you see the guy in the street, he's a big guy. He's a big guy. He looks very alpha. Yeah. And he welled up yesterday. He didn't know he was going to well up. It came through. But it absolutely came through because every guy on the call was just holding the space for the man. There was no one there judging him. There's no one there trying to fix his stuff. It was like, hey, listen, we're just going to hear what you need to say, or what you want to say. And he talked about something that's gone on with his son. And he was like, I've never ever, his son's 8. He's like, I've never ever been able to talk to anyone about that, ever. And this is the first time since he's been born that I've had this like space where I can just talk about that. No one tried fixing it. And he said at the end of his conversation, he was like, when I started this conversation, I was down here. He's pointing to himself. So insinuating like a level 2. He's like, now I feel like level 10. I feel up here. I feel great.
You mentioned a really key thing there that I don't want to overlook and miss. They didn't try and give advice. And this is something I know I'm guilty of all the time.
Yeah,
right? Physios give advice. Like, it's one of the first things you're told. Like, someone comes in, make sure you advise them on how to do this better, do that better, on what they should do and how to fix this. And it's like, when the young physio me, it's like, that's cool. I can fix people. I can help people with my advice. I'll come in. As soon as I think of something, I'm going to come in and I'm going to fix it. And I've noticed there's this, I have to catch myself in all facets of life. Don't give advice when you think of it. Hold it back, hold it back, hold it back. So, and it actually chimes with what you said about giving as well, like the masculine of giving. Like we're almost, we've got this urge, and actually that's what women don't do. They just talk, they listen really fucking well.
There's two things
it just
there.
Goes
on giving. This is fucking so important for a man, right? The immature masculine. The guy that's still sat well within his ego, he's looking to take from the world. He's only ever thinking about himself. How can I get more money? How can I say this to that person so they then do this thing for me? How can I compliment my wife so then she cooks me dinner later? Right? It's like passive aggression, right? They're always looking to take from the world. Never give. That is the immature masculine. That's the boy. Most guys. The mature masculine is looking to give. And he's looking to give without the need to receive. So he's giving back to the world. He's contributing to the world. So even when you said, I'm always looking to give people advice, there's two ways that you can look at that. Are you being immature and actually just looking to give advice purely because you want to help the person, or are you looking to give advice because you want to massage your ego and just increase your status?
For sure, the latter, more times than I would like to admit.
That's the thing. It's like, dude.
But that's definitely what goes on. And like now, because I am becoming more mature, like I am recognizing these traits within myself, and I wouldn't have put the language you just put on it, but I'm totally aware that that's something that old me all the time.
Yeah.
I was doing that all the time.
Oh, yeah, and it's our ego.
And I would even say it's still me now, but I catch myself these days. The
Dude,
awareness is
still
there,
me.
right? Yeah.
Still me. All the fucking time. Like we don't complete the Matrix. We don't complete this game. There's just so many levels to this. Like we all fall back. Even the most developed of us. Like I'm at like level 3 in this fucking journey of level fucking 3000. There's all these levels. We all fall back into our ego, and particularly for we're 37 years old. That self has been there for fucking 37 years. Like it's hard to kill that person. It's our identity.
Self and ego. Tell me more, because my memory is that they were the phrases where I delved into your Instagram. They were the ones where I went, okay, there's some real good psychological stuff going on here.
Okay, we'll talk about we're talking about archetypes. This was popularized by Carl Jung, super famous, super well known psychologist.
Yeah.
Carl Jung talked about there being 4 core archetypes. There are, like, we have hundreds of different archetypes, right? Probably thousands of them, but just like 4 initially. We'll talk about the 4 core. Number 1 is your ego, the persona, the masks. Like your ego is formed by you placing masks on yourself. So and these masks are built because essentially you want the world to like you.
Yep.
You want society to like you. You want your parents to like you. You want the people around you to like you. Or sometimes you might rebel against your parents and it's like, well, fuck you, I'm going to put this mask on instead. But when we're young, we build these masks.
This is ultimately, my understanding of this part is that it's ultimately about attachment and connection to other humans. It's essentially our survival need beyond oxygen is connection to other people. So much so when we're young, like we have to have connection, ideally parents, but if parents aren't there, we seek peers. And that's what you just mentioned there. We rebel, potentially. We're not getting it from parents. We'll go to others. So we develop these masks to ensure that we can connect.
We want to survive.
Yeah.
And for us to survive, we want the world to like us.
Yeah.
So we'll put all these masks on. So the government will say this and go, okay, well, I'll do that then. Yeah. Or the society will say this, our teachers will say that. And so when we're young, or we get bullied, and then we go, oh, fuck me, I'm getting bullied. So if I put this mask on, then I'll stop the bullying or keep me safe. And so what happens is we just move further and further away from who we truly are, like our authentic self.
And look, let's draw right back to the beginning. It's socially and professionally very, very rewarding if you get that stuff right. If you're really good with masks, you can do very well in life. And you told that story very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can perceive yourself and perceive the world. Yeah. It's actually, this is the funny thing, is that I put a mask on so fucking long ago when my brother said to me, my stepbrother, who I used to look up to because he's successful in his career. He's like, Pete, perception. It's all about fucking perception, right? And he's talking about the word of sales. It's all about, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah. I'm like 16, 17 at the time. I'm like, yeah, that makes fucking sense. Mask, okay. So we put these masks on, right? This forms our ego, right? Then we do things that are out of alignment. The second archetype is our shadow, right? Our shadow is our darkness. So the things that are truly aligned with us, we start to place them in our shadow. So like our openness, our vulnerability, our compassion, our empathy, like just the parts of us that are great, some parts maybe not so great, we'll place them in our shadow. So we start to suppress.
With the mask.
Yes, we suppress them. We're pushing them down. The thing is with the shadow is that it's always there. So it's underlying. So it'll come out. It might come out in moments of madness or anger or rage, or it might just come out in like passive aggressive, like just underlying tone of your voice and the way that you're talking to people and the way that you're approaching the world. The things in your shadow come out. Okay. Third archetype is animas. This is your masculine and feminine. This is every woman has masculine within her and should do. Every man has feminine within him and should do. Right? What society can teach or the way that we portray it is that I shouldn't be fucking vulnerable, shouldn't be open, shouldn't express my feelings. And so to be successful, I need to be emotionally detached. I'll be alpha and be super masculine.
So they put some of the feminine in the shadow.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. And then so we suppress those elements. Other people might completely rebel and go the other way around, other men, and put their masculine, because they're like, didn't like the way my dad raised me. He maybe used to beat me, or maybe he was so overly masculine. I just didn't like it. Fuck that. I'm going to suppress that side of me. And then I love the way my mum raised me because she made me feel so good. Dad left when I was 13, 14. So actually my mum raised me all through my teenage years and into my early 20s. She's amazing, super feminine. So you can go the other way and be overly feminine, right? The ideal here is to have both. Is to have the balance between the two. It's to be able to, when the moment's right, is dip into your feminine. Be like super compassionate, super loving, super open, right? Be able to be empathetic, but also when you need to go, fucking, I'm gonna get into my warrior right now. I'm gonna set the vision, right? I'm gonna get and start acting. I'm gonna get up the gym. I'm gonna lift some weights. I'm gonna set the business up. We're gonna make the money. I'm gonna do all these things. But it's both. It's the yin and the yang.
Yeah, it's great because like I exercise to achieve. I know I do. I exercise because I want to achieve a thing. I'm going to set myself a goal. And I love that feeling of pursuing and then achieving, or not actually. I don't even care whether I achieve or not. I want to learn. I want to learn about myself, my limits. And if I get it, great. If I don't, I'm going to try again and I'm going to do another thing. My wife exercises because she feels better. I don't care how I feel after in a way. I'm sure there's a bit of it that helps me, but sometimes I feel absolutely terrible, but I feel like I've achieved something because it's part of my progress and part of my pursuing nature. Yeah. So that also kind of really rings true. And I'm going to just draw back again to the yin and the yang there. My understanding of yin and yang is that the line that intersects in between yin and yang is where meaning and purpose is found.
Yes.
That's my understanding of the terminology and the methods.
Okay, so what that brings us to is the fourth archetype, the self. This is where we're wanting to get to. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is the once you are here, you are becoming, essentially you're being authentic. You are aligned with your true self. So everything that's in your shadow, you haven't completed this, but you are working on this. You're bringing things out of your shadow. The ego is being diminished. It goes from 100% down to 90, 70, 80, it's down to 5%. You're really squashing that. This is second half of life. This is where it's like, when you see older people and they just don't give a fuck. You're like, that guy, he's just stopped giving a fuck. He doesn't care what
said that.
anyone thinks. Yeah, what? But you have this like admiration for the fuck. Yeah. That's because he's just letting go of his ego. Yeah. He always let go of it, right? And he's just becoming way more aligned with like his true self. So this is the combination of you're integrating your shadow, you're diminishing your ego, and you've integrated masculine and feminine as a whole. You become well-rounded man. Your true aligned self. That's the work.
And look, we're a work in progress, and I think what the conversation is, it's really tapping into some real psychological deep stuff here that helps people then engage and take responsibility and awareness. What is it about the stuff you do in your group that you think becomes so effective for creating that space? How do you do it in your group?
Yeah. Okay. So we have a combination, the cocktail. So firstly, the first part of the cocktail is there is a therapeutic psychoeducation side of this, is that we bring so much awareness to how the psyche is working. Our subconscious, 95% what's going on. Mm. All right. We've got the 5% of our front part of our brain, which is like, that dictates what we're doing. So the more that we can bring awareness to what's going on in our psyche, our subconscious, the more that we can close the gap on like, okay, there's a problem that's going on in my life that's to do with the way I was brought up or to do with the way I was raised and so on and so on. Now I'm aware of that. Now I can actually put the wheels in motion to get over that. Okay, so we do a lot of psychoeducation work, a lot of like awareness work. We also do shadow work. So this is where we'll actually go into your psyche, okay, and figure out for you specifically what's going on there and why is that relevant to you and why is that giving you a fear to stop you from doing the things you want to fucking do, right? Essentially, we're looking to close the gap. So here's where you are now. And in your terms, you might say, do you know what, Pete, if I'm being honest, probably at level 4. I know my potential is level 10. I know that there's so much expanse. I know I can achieve so much. I'm probably at level 4. Well, that between level 4 and level 10, that's where we'd just help you close that gap. Right? First part, understanding.
There's going to be, many people out there where this stuff is like eye roll or like that's not for me, don't care for that shit, But I guess our audience is rooted in this mindset of better never ends.
Yes.
You've spoken a lot about growth mindset here, and as a result, no doubt, people self-select into your community because it fits with their identity as well. So there's quite clearly a type, I suppose, of person who's going to engage with this stuff. But deep down, do you think that it has a broader spread, or do you think there are just certain people who won't benefit from this type of work?
No, I think all men should fucking have this. Because I've just seen the level of growth in all guys. I think, I'm like, no, all guys should be involved in some form of, it doesn't have to be my group, but to be involved in some sort of group where you've got men that are talking about the depths of where you can go and are challenging you. And it's like, because we all go through chaos. We all go through tough times. This year I got divorced, right? 12 years ago, I lost my best friend in a car accident, right? 8 years ago, I had my heart broken. 8 years ago, 9 years ago, I had my heart broken for the first time. It's fucking horrendous. Through all those periods, like I kind of had people. I never really, until this year, I went through a divorce. Fucking hell, the amount of support I had from guys, like in my community, like they were there. They weren't trying to fix the problem. They were all there to support. Just accelerated the way that I was able to navigate the chaos of what that was.
So chaos is normal. Life is chaotic. We shouldn't be trying to stop chaos. But what's the difference now then? You've got support, but what does that help you? Like, control is the opposite of chaos to some degree, right? So too much control as well might be detrimental. We've got to almost allow for it, right?
You can't control anything.
So how do you, so how do you, okay, go on then. What does that mean in practical terms?
Again, it's like men. We are like, we're analytical, we're logical. How can I control an outcome? How can I do X and Y to get me this outcome? Whether that's in a relationship, how can I say these things to get laid? How can I do these things to make X amount of money? Right? We like to control things. We want that certainty. How can I make sure that I get this thing? By controlling it. The more that we do that, the less fucking control we actually have. Because inevitably, when the control and certainty doesn't come, when we don't get laid by that, what we wanted, or like we wanted to make $1 million, but we didn't make $1 million, we made 700, and it's like, fucking hell, I'm pissed off about that. It's like, that then causes chaos. We don't control anything. The only thing that we can control is what goes on, is the story that we tell in our head. And the day that you can let go of control, and the day that you can understand that the world that we live in is chaotic, is fucking uncertain, and it's very hard. It involves a lot of hard work. When you embody those 3 things and know that, do you know what? There's always challenge ahead of me. Might feel good now. Next week, next month, next year, there could be some really big, it's likely there will be big challenges ahead of me. And you accept it. Like, acceptance is on the if you would think about levels of consciousness, like being an accepting person is extremely high on the consciousness chart. Like the more that you accept, the more inner peace that you have.
You've got, it's also a huge part of emotional regulation as well, right? If you reject, then that's emotionally toxic. But if you accept, it brings about this emotional regulation. You know, we don't want to control emotions. We just said about the dangers there of control. Too much control, it ends up in chaos the other end. But that emotional regulation, acceptance, that these are all, you know, historically very woo-woo, very like, we don't talk about this as men. We don't, but actually, it is the process from what you're saying.
Yeah,
It's the method.
And it's it's woo-woo. It's woo-woo, it's spiritual, it's fucking...
What's wrong with that?
It's universe, it's like... Yeah. It's whatever. We don't know what it is, but it's been around fucking thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
It really has, and I think for a lot of us guys, and this was for me, like this has only been the last 2 years that I've gone, do you know what, I need to lean into this. Because I rejected that the universe, God, spirit, paradigms, quantum physics, I rejected that for a very long time. I was like, no, makes no logical sense, not proven by science, nah.
Me too.
Okay? The way too masculine.
Yeah.
Way too masculine. When I was like, oh, do you know what? This like leaning into my feminine a little bit, probably going to serve me. Oh, maybe I will just go with the flow of life. What I
rejected ultimately was the story of religion. That didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to my scientific, logical, analytical mind. Then in recent years, I've become aware that it doesn't have to be religion to help me understand these things. I could lean on a different story or lean on a different way of thinking. Spirituality started to be this word that chimed a bit more accurately for me. And I still don't really understand it, right? I don't get it, but I embrace it a little more, this concept of there being something beyond me as a person, something beyond us as people and things. And whatever that means. I actually quite like the concept of it being love, actually, like this universality of love. And I don't even really quite know how to make logical sense of it, because I try and make logical sense of anything. But if I lean into that feminine, then I can be okay with it. I can accept that there can be things that I don't understand. I don't even have to understand it. I just have to allow for it and just allow for the possibility of it even, maybe. So that's been my maturation actually recently of just being more open to this alternative way that isn't religion, but it's spiritual. And I used to just put them both in the same basket. They're the same thing. Religion is spirituality and vice versa. But I don't believe that's the case anymore, for me personally anyway. So what I think a lot of people find in their life is another way of numbing this uncertainty. They find another way of covering up this loneliness, of drowning out the voices that come from the shadows. We use vices. So we use chemicals, we use bad habits, we use noise to shut it out, distraction. What is that okay? I mean, in general, no, but like, how do you feel about a vice? Like, at what point is it a vice, maybe? Lots of questions there.
Yeah. At what point is it a vice? I mean, my definition of a vice is that it feels good in the moment, but it takes away from the future.
Mm-hmm.
So you're scrolling social media, feels pretty good in the moment. It's giving you a dopamine hit. But ultimately, is that going to take away from you creating a better future?
Does it serve you?
Yeah.
If the answer is no,
you taking drugs, like Class A's, and feels fucking... I used to take loads of it, right? It feels fucking great in the moment. Don't feel so good the next day. And the day after that, or the day after that, like it generally does take away from the future. Same with drink.
Yeah, which I think we often forget is a drug in itself, right? We all know it, but it's a socially acceptable drug that is incredibly harmful. And like this year has been my year of drinking a lot less. I don't not drink, but I drink a lot less than I ever used to. More like once a month rather than once a week.
Yeah.
And when I used to drink once a week, it'd be really drink once a week. I get really, really pissed and feel it for 2 or 3 days, but was kidding myself that that's all right, I'm mid-30s, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then I got a whoop, and it just helped me align with what's going on inside of me. Like, I knew what it felt like, but then the numbers just went, your recovery is terrible for 3 days.
Yeah.
Like, well, that means nearly half of my week I'm recovering. I don't want to do that. I want to be thriving most of my week. There's going to be other things that come in, but there's a controllable factor here, and that's I need to drink a bit less. So there's certain things that even as a health conscious guy, like I'm still only figuring that stuff out now. Feels crazy, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff there with vices that it's so easy to do in your 20s, and maybe you shouldn't even necessarily be too shying away from it because you're discovering things, you're experiencing. You got to do that.
Oh fuck yeah, go and experience. Like I don't regret any of my drinking days and my drug taking days. It's a great time, right? I think it only becomes a problem when it just takes over your life and it stops you from growing, like exponentially growing. Big vice for guys is porn. Huge fucking vice for men. It's like the urge to have a wank. Okay, I'll go and watch some porn. It's like that's a problem. But like the underlying of that is it can, like I've seen this with guys affecting their business. It's like it can be used as an avoidance tactic. So, I've got plenty of things to go and do in my business to grow my company right now. But then urge comes in, go and have a wank. Right? Okay, well, I'll just go and watch some porn.
Yeah.
Okay, now I feel tired after watching the porn. All my serotonin levels and dopamine, they're all changed. Now I feel tired. Now I definitely cannot be asked to go and do the prospecting work that I said I was going to do in my business this morning. Right? That, like, porn's a huge problem for lots of guys. And I think too many guys don't see it as a problem. So why not? I've always fucking done it. Every man does it. No, they don't. Right? They don't. I know for me, I did it for a very long time. But that's because I knew no different. I had no one to tell me that it was a bad thing. And I've been doing it since I was like 15 years old.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a fucking long time.
And what's it hiding? Right? What's it covering up?
Yeah. So it can cover up so many things. Because what porn does is provide a hit on an urge, right? And then it's like, well, I've done that, and maybe I don't need to then do that with my missus because I've already got my hit, and it could fucking be so much detriment to sex lives.
Takes out the fear of rejection.
Yeah, because it's easy.
Can't get rejected by your smartphone.
Yeah, done. Super easy. Move on. But that repeated over and over and over and over is a bad habit to form.
And I would even just sub out porn for alcohol, sub out alcohol for drugs.
Yes, what are you numbing?
Yeah.
Typically with vices, it's there's some underlying numb. We're trying to numb something. So I can't wait to get to the weekend so I can drink. Why? Fucking work's been stressful. Okay, what's going on there? Like, what is that? Is that the way that you're going to continue your life for the rest of your life? Is wait for the weekend and just have a drink so I can numb because work's been stressful that week? It becomes habitual, then it becomes identity. It's literally the story you tell yourself. Can't wait for the weekend. Story.
It's a story society tells you as well.
Yeah.
It's a hedonistic story that we're led to believe is the way forwards.
Yeah, but it's like you can create. It doesn't fucking have to be that way.
Yeah. So that's the story you're telling. And how does someone who's been listening to this podcast who wants to find out a bit more, how do they find out about you and that story?
Pete Taylor on Instagram, heroicman.com or heroicmanofficial on Instagram. That's where we're at. Loads and loads of stuff. I've got a huge podcast. Go and binge it like a course. It is like it's aimed at guys, and we go through relationships. We go through how to have hard conversations. We go through how to set boundaries. We go through how to fucking just raise your standards in all areas as a guy. Most guys will just binge it and then get loads of growth from just listening to what we talk about.
We've covered a lot about growth mindset, as we mentioned. Better Never Ends was my big why, and then became this podcast Big Why. So what does that mean to you in your world?
Better Never Ends. Here's what it means to me. Is that, like I said earlier, I am always looking to close the gap between where I'm at now. So say I'm at a level 4 now, and I have my level 10. There's that gap. I'm always looking to close it. Moment to moment to moment. The decisions that I'm making, am I closing that gap or am I moving backwards? So it's like we talked about porn earlier. Like, I have a fucking weak moment and go on fucking look at some porn, look at Pornhub. In that moment, am I closing the gap or am I going backwards? I'm going backwards. When I have a conversation with someone, am I looking to give or receive? If I'm looking to give, am I doing it to massage my ego and my status, or am I fucking genuinely looking to contribute? In that moment, that is a decision. We talked about this earlier. This is called expansive discipline. Being able to expand my mind moment to moment for growth, not to step backwards.
Very good. I like it. Thanks so much for today.
Pleasure, man.
We went a long way. We went deep, just how I hoped. Thanks for coming in.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Better, provider of health, wellness and performance services based in central London. You can book in for face-to-face services at either of our 2 clinics, one in Soho and one in the city. You can also follow us on Instagram at Better Never Ends, or head over to our website for more information about the clinics or the podcast at www.betterneverends.com. And of course, if you want to send us an email with any feedback, questions or suggestions for future episodes, then email us on podcast@betterneverends.com. And finally, thanks to Brian Long for editing the show. Without him, it's absolutely no doubt in my mind that these would never have seen the light of day. And it will allow this podcast to continue on for as long as I'll keep recording them. So thanks very much, Brian.